requesting that Governor Fallin reconsider her denial of clemency that would commute his death sentence to life in prison without parole. I'm Kenny Fikes, co-chair of the Oklahoma Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty, speaking on behalf of the other board members who believe that working to end the death penalty in Oklahoma is imperative. We are a statewide organization engaging in outreach, education, and advocacy aimed at raising awareness of issues related to the death penalty and mobilizing Oklahoma citizens and their elected officials to support the abolition of the death penalty. We invite all concerned citizens, groups, and organizations to join our growing movement. Our motto is, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Today we're here obviously to talk about the Gary Allen case. And the rationale that's been prepared by one of our board members is as follows. Gary Allen has serious mental health issues both presently and at the time of the murder. While we may be alarmed that he may be released and live next door, we do not face that possibility. At most, a grant of clemency would be a sentence to life in prison without parole. The key reason for setting aside the death penalty for Gary Allen is the issue of culpability. The death penalty must be reserved for the worst of capital murderers. The U.S. Supreme Court has prohibited use of the death penalty for two scenarios of limited culpability. One is juveniles, and the other would be in the case of mentally retarded capital murderers. This was, however, after Gary Allen was sentenced to death. The court considered that in the United States, an evolving standard of decency has changed the limits imposed by the United States Constitution's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. While the court has addressed severe mental retardation, but not mental illness, the reasons for protection of Gary Allen, who is severely mentally ill, are set forth in recent Supreme Court rulings. The level of culpability is now the evolving standard and constitutes cruel and unusual punishment, prohibiting the execution of all but the most culpable, the worst of the worst. Oklahoma's Pardon and Parole Board carefully considered all factors and supported clemency by an unusually strong 4-1 vote. The governor is urged to give full weight to the Pardon and Parole Board's recommendation.
My name is Garland Pruitt, president of the local branch NAACP. The NAACP from its conception has always been against unfair treatment and unjust laws and penalties that have a tendency to victimize one party against another. From slavery to lynching to Jim Crow, policies and laws have been put in place that for some reason are disproportionately distributed among African Americans than some others. I just happened to see the stats in the state of Oklahoma alone, and they ended up at this particular time of 43 on death row, 28 blacks, 36 whites, 3 Hispanics, and the proportion, just based on population alone, says that there is a definitely unequal and unfair distribution of the death penalty. When we make up 8% as a minority, and we rank in 26 out of 37, those numbers don't equal out. Something about the disparity in Mitch, and so the death penalty is permanent. You cannot reverse those.
Regarding the punishment motive, we're no longer able to use the death penalty against people who have a lesser level of culpability. That's the people that did capital murder, but they were either developmentally disabled, what's been referred to as mentally retarded, or juveniles at the time of doing the capital murder. The reasoning behind those cases is those people don't have the full capacity to develop the most evil of motives and to carry out those motives. They're limited, they're less mature, they're less able to calculate like someone that has full capacity. That applies to the severe mentally ill like Gary Allen. And based on that, the U.S. Supreme Court, if it had this case, would surely prohibit this execution.
Since we know that Gary Allen is mentally challenged, to say the least, he's physically deteriorated after all these years on death row, there is no benefits that we can find for anybody by going ahead with this execution. Our governor can have all confidence that the primary objectives of the criminal justice system have been already achieved. The public is protected, capital punishment has received its just punishment, and faith in the system can continue. So Governor Fallin has legal, humanitarian, and Christian faith grounds for taking the action of reconsidering her decision that she made on March 13th to deny clemency for Gary Allen. We continue to pray for Gail Titsworth's family and friends. I pray that they have found and will continue to use, through God's grace, ways to work through their grief, to find some healing and recovery from their terrible loss. I know that her son, Anthony Titsworth, has asked that this death sentence be commuted to life in prison. If a son of a mother that's killed can forgive and say no more punishment, surely the state can do the same. Since we can find no benefits for society, the criminal justice system, or these two traumatized families by putting this man to death, we call for all Oklahoma citizens to urge Governor Fallin to reverse her decision. I ask you to call her. Her phone number is 521-2342, or you can fax her at 521-3353, or you can write to her, the Honorable Governor Mary Fallin, State Capitol, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73105. And you can also go to our website, which is okcadp.org, for links to signed petitions. We will be delivering petitions to the governor sometime midweek. Please join us, Oklahomans.
So this is a very important time period in the state of Oklahoma. We have these two deaths that are possible, and the governor needs to hear the passion, the commitment, not only of our members, but other people in this state who believe the same way we do, but who have not realized that they have the power to do something about it. And by writing the governor, volume does make a difference. So by writing the governor, by calling her, by stopping by her office, by visiting legislators, even though there's no legislative proposal, I think the more people come out and realize they have their power and exercise that power, we will begin to see progress in Oklahoma. At this rate, it's very slow going, but we are hopeful. As Rex said, there's always hope. And we will continue to do all we can to raise awareness about the wrongness of the death penalty in Oklahoma. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate the press. You are part of this process, and we need you. We need you telling both sides of this story. We need you telling it in a light that is progressive, that is positive, that is different from what we're